Hope
Morning, Coach.
everybody's well. Thank you, Mark. Just to get started, practice is going well. Guys are excited. It's a much better practice this week than last week. I could tell for whatever reason it was a struggle last week, and it was okay, but it wasn't great like it had been. And they're back to being them this week. They've got great respect for Wake Forest, and the 3 games that we've played with them have been close. They know going on the road for a 6th time in 10 weeks is really pretty much unheard of. But this will be the 6th road game in 10 games that we've played. So I want to give these kids a lot of credit and these coaches for fighting through all the talk about 0-6 last year on the road. These guys have completely changed that narrative, and it's really good. Give Dave Clawson credit too. They're 19-3 at home since 2019. So they've been really, really hard to beat. And if you look at it, they've played some really good teams there. So that's you can go back and pick out the 3 that they've lost, but 19 wins is very, very impressive. Their teams are always well coached. They've got very few penalties. They've got 43 on the season, which is 18th in the NCAA and first for fewest penalties in the ACC. We've played, you start looking at the last 2 years, and we've played great games with them. I mean, it's just crazy, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But they've averaged 36.9 points per game this year, 19th in the NCAA and 2nd in the ACC. They've got one of the best receiving corps in the country. They're very impressive. They're tall, but they just seem to replace them every year with great players, and they've done a tremendous job of recruiting. So you got to give them a lot of credit. And we fully expect them to get back at home and play great. The 2 losses the last 2 weeks have been on the road, and they've basically been because of turnovers, and that's so unlike them that I'm sure they're excited about the game as well. Brad Lambert's their new defensive coordinator. He coached for Jim Grove at Wake Forest. He had coached for Jim Donnan, both friends of mine, and they have tremendous respect for him. He's very experienced, and their defense is much better. So it's not going to be the same defense that we've seen the last 2 years. They've got 22 sacks on the year and also 63 tackles for loss, which is 17th in the NCAA and 4th in the ACC. So they're penetrating, they're getting after people, and they're doing a really good job with it. Sam Hartman, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play college football. It's funny, you start looking at Brennan Armstrong last week and the records that he set for the ACC. Sam Hartman's the same. He is very, very accurate. He's won so many games. Here's what he's done to us the last 2 years. In 2020, he threw for 429 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And then in 2021, he threw for 398 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So he's thrown 9 touchdowns and nearly 900 yards on us the last 2 years. So that's very, very impressive. And he had the medical issue early in the year, and he's tough enough. He came right back and came to play. So that just shows you what kind of competitor he is. He won a state championship in high school. So I've got tremendous respect for that young man and what he's done at Wake Forest over the past 2 years. Coach Clawson's really been amazing with his progress there, winning 11 games last year, winning the Atlantic and playing for the conference championship. And they're competitive every year. Here they are at 6-3, and they've been ranked in the top 10 this year. They were ranked in the top 10 last year, sitting there at 8-5 in 2019. So Jim Grove did an amazing job to get them to the Orange Bowl when he was there, and now Dave Clawson's doing the same with all that he's winning to take Clemson to 2 overtimes and get beat 51-45 at home, where Sam Hartman threw 6 touchdown passes is really impressive. I sat there and watched that game and said, wow, these guys are really good. And they throw it deep about 20 times a game. and that has not been one of our strong suits as we look back. You look at the games the last 3 years. We talked about the last two, but the last three, they had us down 21-0 at Wake Forest the last time we were there, and came back and they won 24-18. And then last year we were down 31-24 at halftime. And then 2 years ago we were down, 2 years ago we were down 31-24. Last year we were down 35-24 at halftime. So they've jumped on us and they've gotten out to big leads, and we've had to come back and claw our way into 59, 53, and 58, 55 wins. But you also have to give credit to schools in the state of North Carolina this year. Duke's already bowl eligible, NC State's bowl eligible, we're bowl eligible, Wake's bowl eligible, East Carolina and App State's going to be. So for high school football in this state, it's really impressive to see this many schools that have a chance to have great seasons and winning seasons. And that's a compliment to the high school programs in this state, because there's a lot of programs here. And you have to feed those programs with high school players, largely from this state. So great compliment to the high school coaches to have that many teams eligible. I think, and I might be wrong, but somebody told me this morning, it's the first time that the Big Four have been eligible for a bowl at the same time. So that's unbelievable. So the first time ever. So and Mike Elko's done an amazing job. Dave's doing a great job, and both Daves, Dave Doran and Dave Clausen. So all four of these programs are flourishing right now, and it makes it exciting for fans with a rivalry. But also, I think the biggest thing is the credit should go back to the high school coaches, because they're producing the players that we're all trying to get. Defense has got to improve the first half. I don't know why we've started slow, and it seems like we do it and been horrible in the second quarters. And then after adjustments, we've come back and played a good third and fourth quarter. But we've got to play a full game these last 3 weeks, because we're playing very good teams. Offensively, we have played 5 defenses that are in the top 50 in the country. Alabama's played against 1. So our offense has played against really good defenses, and they've played well. So we've got to continue to do that. And I'm really proud of our kicking game. After 4 years, we're finally making some plays in the kicking game to help us win games. And the great teams are great in the kicking game. And we have not been. We've been inconsistent. So excited game. I told the guys again this morning, it's fun to be playing for something really important in November. And give them credit for that. And I just said, thank you for making this so much fun for us. And I told them, you need to enjoy this. You need to enjoy this ride. And there's a chapter out there that hadn't been finished with North Carolina football, and you got to finish it. And we got to finish it right. But just don't get uptight and don't worry about it. Go play. Go have fun. That's what college football is all about. Mark?
All right, guys. Thanks, Coach. Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, with Wake throwing so many deep balls, that magnifies the importance of trying to get a fairly conventional pass rush, something you guys haven't been all that consistent with. Now that you have some new bodies up there, have you seen some progress in that area this week?
Andrew, that's something we've got to do, and we got to do better, and we haven't. And I've been talking about pass rush for 4 years, and we haven't gotten it. It's just really frustrating. And we've all talked about it. Used to be 50-50 balls deep. Now it's 80-20. You got to win some, and their receivers are really good. Our corners have got to continue to grow and get better. But that's a huge part of this game this weekend. They are going to throw deep in one-on-one situations, and you have got to make plays to have a chance to beat this team.
And as far as last week having a so-so week of practice, was that the first time this year that you kind of maybe went a little bit below where you thought the team was consistently previously?
Yes, it was. It was the only Tuesday practice that I walked off of there and said this was not as good an effort as we need to beat Virginia. And we keep talking about living to the standard of excellence. And that's the first practice that I thought we didn't. And that's pretty good. when you talk about spring practice and preseason. But it's still, I told them, you are what you are, and you are how you play. You are what you put on video. And if you guys are going to finish strong, practicing okay is not acceptable. That means you're an okay team. If you want to be great, and we're not, but if you want to be great, don't talk about it, do it. And that's why we're still not talking about anything other than playing, because we got to play better. And then we didn't play as well as we needed to at Virginia. I didn't think we got better as a team last week. And this team needs to continue to get better to get where we want to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Luciano, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. I hope you're doing well, and thanks for your time. I was going to ask a different question, which I'll ask later if there's time, but you just called Sam Hartman one of the best quarterbacks to ever play college football. Is it fair to call Drake May versus Sam Hartman the best quarterback matchup the ACC currently has to offer, and what are you expecting from that match?
It's a fair question, and without sitting here thinking about all the quarterbacks in the ACC, we've got some really, really good ones. I think that it will be one of the best quarterback matchups in the country this weekend. I thought, I didn't even realize they both wear number 10. And Sam seems like he's been around forever. We don't play him next year, so I hope he comes back. But I was hoping he'd go pro last year. I was hoping Brennan Armstrong would go pro last year because they've both been so successful against us. But you can't be a coach and like the game and love the kids without admiring what that young guy's done. And when you look at what he's accomplished, I mean, he's one of the best ever to play in the ACC. I think he's right around that same Brennan Armstrong standard of 10,000 yards or whatever it is. He's been so good, and he's just so accurate. You just love watching him play, and he competes all the time. It's funny. Even when he threw an interception at the first of the NC State game, he was the first guy to run over there and tackle a guy. I mean, he knocked him out of bounds. And I'm thinking, here's an older guy that's a pro prospect, and you watch, he is not worried about getting hurt. Man, he just mad the interception happened, and he sprinted over there and tackled him. And I was so impressed with that. And you just look at guys that you like the way they play, and I like the way he plays.
Okay, Michael Coe.
Hey there, Mac. I wanted to ask you about Jeff Saturday, well, Coach Saturday now. When you first heard the news, what was your reaction?
I was proud for Jeff. You know, I thought he might be like me, maybe he's stupid and he's leaving TV to go back and coach. I don't know, man. Those TV jobs are good. But I'm proud for him. I'm proud that he's a high school coach. He loves the game. I told our team in front of his son Jeffrey today that we're so proud of him, and they all cheered that he's the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm gonna send him a text today and say, you're gonna look like me in about 3 years. So just understand that these jobs are different, but good for him. And some people will question whether he can do it or not. I absolutely think he can do it. He's smart. He played. Sometimes I think the transition from college to the NFL is tougher, because that's why I never did it, because I thought I was a college coach, and I'm not sure that I didn't know enough about free agency, and I didn't get to control the draft. And there were a lot of things that I didn't feel like was suited for me. I was a college football coach. He knows. He's been in that locker room. He knows what goes on there, and handling the practices and handling the locker room and handling those guys is a huge part of that. And sometimes I think it's much tougher for college coaches to do that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Michael.
Tommy Ashley, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, looking at you referenced Wake and Clemson, and obviously Hartman had a great game against Clemson, but not good against Louisville and NC State. What have you seen watching those tapes that maybe those two teams did differently that Clemson was unable to do against Wake Forest?
It was amazing, Tommy. I was watching the first half at Louisville, and they're ahead. And then I didn't get to see it. I had to leave somewhere. I did something. Maybe it was Friday night or something. But but maybe we were playing and I had to leave, and I look up and 35 points scored in the third quarter. So it's kind of like our crazy Appalachian quarter. It was just turnovers, and you can't have turnovers. And since we've been here, the Dave Clawson teams have not had turnovers. And then there was some of that again the other night. So they've just had 2 tough weeks on the road in both difficult environments. So they'll be back at home. They're talking about ball security today, I'm sure. But you can't turn the ball over and win games. And they won the first half and then turned it over in the third quarter, and it just went crazy. And sometimes that momentum starts, and it is really hard to flip it back. And then I thought it was a great game at NC State. NC State's one of the best defenses in the country. They are playing great defense. They're not playing good defense. They're number 1 in the ACC. So everybody's had trouble moving the ball against them.
And to sort of follow up there, a lot of people equate blitzing with pressure. Hartman can handle the blitz, but his pressure, the pressure side of it gets to him. Have you pinpointed with your defensive staff maybe how to you mentioned the need to get pressure, but it doesn't always have to come via the blitz. And against Wake Forest, if you blitz and don't get there, Hartman's going to make you pay. What's that task like this week for Gene Chizik?
Well, Tommy, there's narratives out there really strange to me that and I thought in the media sometimes we get hooked on something for the year and we don't get off of it. And everybody got hooked on our defense was really bad after Appalachian State, and they won't give it up. They won't say that we're playing much better in the ACC games. We're only giving up 24 points a game, and they just haven't given these kids any credit. And I said, it's our fault, because we gave up 40 points in one quarter, and media narrative doesn't change. They're not going to look at all the stats. They're not going to study it really hard. That's just what they decided. So you're a bad defense. Also, in that same light, everybody says Gene Chizik is a bend, not break. Gene's blitzed a bunch this year, and we're not getting there. And that's what I told the kids. I said, it's not fair to your secondary who gets yelled at when they leave somebody wide open and you're not getting there. So we have got to get there when we blitz, and we're not. And that's one-on-one situations that you've got to make plays. And to be a great defense, we've got to do that better. We blitzed a bunch on Saturday, and you didn't even notice it because we got 1 sack. And we have not gotten sacks without blitzing, and we haven't for 4 years. And 2 of our best pass rushers, really 4 of our best pass rushers, are gone now, with Noah Taylor and Des Evans and Ray Vahasik and Tamari Fox. That was 4 of our quickest guys up front, who had rushed the passer and had some sacks, and those guys are all gone. So right now, Kamen Rucker is one of our best rushers, because he has gotten there, and like I said, he played banged up last week, so he didn't have his best game.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, Adam Smith, go ahead.
Mac, when you mentioned the text to Jeff Saturday, are you saying these jobs age you? Is that what you're getting at?
Look at me. I hate these before and after pictures. All those skinny pictures of me with dark hair, and I look like I was 12, and here we are. So yes, Adam, I think my answer would be yes.
All right. Well, I thought the money side of it, helped you, but
well, it does, but you don't have time to spend it. So
okay.
you're working all the time. I do remember I had ulcers when I was younger as a head coach, and I went to the doctor, and I had scars of ulcers, I think is what he said. And I went to the doctor, and he said, I said, what can I do to change this? He said, change jobs. He said, that's your problem. So that didn't help me very much.
Well, I was going to ask you about, we try to listen to you. In recent years, are you mentioning the state championship less and less? I mean, I know that was always such a big thing you talked about with your teams and everything. I'm not saying you are, but is that something you just maybe put on the back seat in terms of your motivational things that you talk to the team about?
No, Adam, what I've changed that narrative some, that you can't lose regional games and be a national team. So if you lose to Virginia and Virginia Tech and the in-state schools, you're not going to be talked about on a national basis. So if you want to be national, then get national. But until you can beat the teams that you compete with for players and recruiting and every day, then you're not going to get where you need to go. So that's kind of where we've gone with it now is I came back to help Carolina be relevant again in football and help them be a national again. And you can't do that unless you beat the people that around you. And there's absolutely no doubt, 100%. They call them rivals because your top fans and your fans in general don't like losing to people they have to see every day at work and church and the grocery store. And that's why they're rivals. Kids usually don't have rivalries. The rivalries were created by fans. And when the fans want to win that bad, then the kids want to win that bad because the kids are usually buddies because they played against each other in high school or together. And so it's funny to watch them. They all know each other. Noah Taylor was yapping with all the Virginia players all last week. And I said, Noah, don't do that, man. He said, coach, they're all my buddies. So that's what they do. They text back and forth and pick at each other. And that's what rival games are about. Our guys will know a lot of the Wake Forest guys. And I'm sure they're texting back and forth and picking at each other now. But yes, you need to win games close to home. But because it's really, really important to your fan base, but also until you can beat the teams that are around you in your league, you're not going to be national. So you got to be able to beat those teams.
Thank you, Mac. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam.
Steele Brown, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, you mentioned earlier about kind of not liking the way you guys practiced last week leading into that game. I was just curious what constitutes when you go out there and you're like, this practice isn't going well. What are the things that kind of you see that's like, is it an energy thing? Is it the execution is off from guys? Like what constitutes that?
Yeah, see, a good question. To win games, you can't have missed assignments. You can't have a lot of penalties. You can't have turnovers, and you can't be bad in the kicking game. Those things are four things that just pop out when you're not ready to go. So we've had so much energy and practice throughout since spring. I just love this team, and last Tuesday I didn't feel it, and I couldn't really. It was kind of like last year. I couldn't figure out why. I told them. Then we took the pads off the next day, and there was more energy. It was okay on Thursday, and then I was disappointed that the game started, and I thought it was the same way with Tuesday's practice. We started with a kickoff return to the 35 against us. We started with them lining up and running the ball right at us after we heard their three receivers weren't playing, and they run right down the field and score. So I just didn't like it. The thing I ask our guys to do every day, CL, is give us 100%. And if you give us 100% and we get beat, I'm okay with that if we're not the best team. But if you're not giving 100% and if you're not all in with energy, that's when you have missed assignments. That's when you have turnovers. That's when you have penalties. And we really came out of it because we didn't turn the ball over. We didn't have a lot of missed assignments. We had some drop passes and we had some missed tackles, but our kicking game was good. So we ended up doing enough things to win the game. But I just didn't like the preparation during the week. And it's been back the last 2 days.
And I normally don't do this. This is a question my brother asked me, so I'm going to ask you because I don't know exactly what to tell him. But State held Wake Forest to 17 yards rushing last week, and got them away from running that mesh RPO. The question is like, what caused that, and how do you move them away from that? From being able to run that offensive scheme.
See, I think for your brother's knowledge, the biggest thing is State's playing great defense. They are not letting people run the ball, and that they're just doing a great job with it. Coach Gibson's done an amazing job with that defense this year. They're talented, they're confident, and man, they're playing hard. And I think that's the biggest thing. Nobody's running the ball against them.
He was there for your only the only win, I guess, in 1989 season. So he's a longtime fan observer. So
I like your brother. I worry about his intelligence level being at some of those games, but I do like your brother.
thanks, Mac.
Thank you, CL.
All right, back over to Luciano.
Coach, you talked on Monday and just now about Wake's uncharacteristic struggles with penalties and turnovers, something that they have almost never had problems with under Dave Clawson. And you said that you have to stop the run and pressure the quarterback. But how much of those mistakes would you say are self-inflicted, and how much of them can you actually force by yourselves? How much can you take from that Louisville game, for example?
Luciano, I think you go back and have to give credit to Louisville's defense. They've been aggressive, quick. They've blitzed people. They've created chaos for about everybody they've played. And then the same thing for NC State, like I just said. So I think you have to credit road games are tougher than home games. That's why I'm so impressed with this team. People say, well, they haven't played anybody and all that. They've won 5 road games. That's unheard of. Nobody else in the country's won 5 road games. Road games are tougher than home games. And so I do think the crowds were a difference at Louisville and NC State, and they're both really good on defense, and they're very aggressive. They're very quick. They can run. So I'm impressed with both of those defenses. Watching them over the last 2 weeks, we don't play Louisville, but I've seen them enough because we have enough crossover games that we see them play. But they're really quick and they can run, and they can force you into mistakes.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, Ross Martin, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, you mentioned Noah Taylor. Did you see a Virginia player use his middle finger towards Noah Taylor? Did you see that picture?
I did. I asked Noah about it, and he said it was one of my friends picking on me. So that's just part of it. Kids picking at each other, and they have fun, and sometimes they forget that everybody's got a camera now. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, and I want to follow up on the Jeff Saturday question. You think it's kind of crazy he got picked to be a coach without any college or NFL coaching experience? That's kind of the big talking point coming out of that.
I do, but I thought it was a tremendous compliment from the owner to him. He trusts him. He knows what kind of locker room he ran with Peyton Manning, his leadership abilities, and coaching's coaching, and he can do that. And he'll put people in position to call the plays and call the defenses, but they need to be picked up. And he's a very positive, upbeat guy. He's a guy that they hear talking about football or see talking about football on TV. I did that for 5 years, and people have watched, and it does matter. So I think the players will rally around him. It's going to be fun to watch. There'll be a lot of people question it, but there are a lot of people questioning me coming back here too. So a lot of people question a lot of things nowadays, and the questioning is not what's important. The product is, and I think he'll do a great job. I really do. I know Jeff so well, and I've been around him a lot and coaching his son, and he's just an upbeat, positive energy guy, and he'll walk into that locker room, and those guys are going to play hard.
Yeah, I was wondering if you had any stories or anything about him that we should know from him playing for you. I mean, what was he like as a college student, a college player?
Ross, he's been the guy who plays with a chip on his shoulder. He was too little out of high school, so not many people offered him. I think it ended up maybe being us and Georgia Tech because he was too little. And then he comes and he starts for, I think, 3-4 years for us. And then he didn't get drafted because he was too little. And they just didn't think the measurables fit. And then I think he went to the USFL, or he went to the NFL Europe, and then came back and plays 16 years or something with Peyton Manning. So like this, he's been told that he can't do something every time he's tried to in his whole life. And he's made everybody look foolish because he's been successful at everything he's done, including TV. He's great at TV, and he's really fun to listen to, and he's knowledgeable, and he can explain something that's going on very easily. So I would think that about Jeff more than anything else. When somebody tells him no, it just fuels that fire, and he wants to prove everybody wrong. And success is the best revenge. And every time somebody's told him he can't do something, he's doing it. So with all the pundits out there right now saying this is not smart, he can't do this, that's just exciting him to make sure he proves everybody wrong again.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross.
Okay, back over to Adam Smith.
Mac, way back in the day, I used to see Jeff Saturday taking golf lessons at Finley Golf Course, and he didn't look small in golfing attire. But I was going to speak for the group here. I don't know. I think this is accurate. This may be Mark Kimmel's last Zoom that he's hosting for us here, and I just wanted to salute him and tell him thank you and that we love him, obviously, and he guided us through the pandemic on this thing. I just wanted to speak for the group there. He's the best. We're going to miss him, and didn't know if you had any words for him, being the great communicator you are.
Yeah, same thing, Mark. We appreciate what you do and how you've done it. You've done it with class. You've always been the same person every day. And the fact that you've entered the transfer portal is not making us all happy. But we always want what's best for you. And Jeremy told me you have a great opportunity. So don't be a stranger, but thank you for all you've done for us and the way you've handled yourself and the way you've run these meetings. And we appreciate you. Want to say thank you and good luck.
I appreciate that, guys. It's been a great almost 10 years here at Carolina. So I won't be a stranger. I won't be too far away. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Mark.
All right.
Anything else?
Thanks, guys. Well, it looks like Luciano's got one more question. Luciano?
No, it's okay.
Oh,
It's
no,
just
I'm sorry.
emoji.
Sorry. He was clapping. Thank you, Luciano. We appreciate you. All right, Coach.
Yeah,
That's all we got.
I want to echo what Adam said, and I want to thank Adam for actually remembering to bring that up. That was a nice gesture and very much appreciated. Now I got to find someone else to talk about baseball with before we do these things, Mark.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's good that Adam finally had some good input too. That's
Mark was elite during the pandemic with Zoom. He was a trailblazer in executing the Zoom.
That's it.
Elite is the right way to put it. Yeah.
I'll be on your
And
grave
nobody's
soon.
better at the
Grave
game
ceremony.
notes, guys.
It
Nobody's better
is,
at the
Mark.
game notes.
When we were sitting there getting ready to figure out COVID, Bubba called and said, you need to move your staff meeting to the 5th floor. And I said, why? And he said, you just need to. It's not enough room. Spread them out. I said, okay. Then he called back and said, you need to have your meeting on Zoom. And this was all the same day. And I absolutely had never heard of Zoom. I didn't have any idea what it was. So I called my daughter, who's a professor at Virginia, and I said, what is Zoom? And she said, oh my gosh, Dad, let me help you. And from that point forth, I had a Zoom meeting that night, and we are Zooming all over the place now. So again, Mark, thank you. We all tried to figure out what to do during COVID, and it changed all of our lives. And I do think, and I think Adam said it best, is the way you handled this. We didn't miss a beat. It's better to be in person, and when we can do that, we can. But even like this is so much easier for the folks not to have to come over here twice a week, and they can still get their job done. So really, as bad as COVID was, we learned some real positive things from it. So thank you, Mark, and again, good luck. And I will see you all Saturday night. Travel safe.
All right.
Thanks, Mark.